Hey guys, so I'm going to present to you today a project that I do with my geometry classes, or that I've done with my geometry class in the past. This project we do at the end of our surface area and volume unit, and really it not only uses all of their skills and all of their formulas they've used in that unit, but it also uses a lot of logic and reasoning skills as well. Here are two examples of I can statements that I might use throughout the week. They're very generic. And then at the bottom there, I also have two Common Core standards that are based on logic and reasoning skills that students use throughout this unit. So I usually go over that with them as well throughout the week. Here is a sample bell work that I would use. This isn't the only bell work I would use. I would probably also work out different volume or surface area problems based on what solids I see students using in their project, just so they can have a refresher throughout the week of what formulas they need to be using, how they should be used, and things like that. So this is the title page of the project, and this is going to be part of a packet that I will give each group. I usually have groups of 3 or 4. I like groups of 3 simply because it keeps all students working, and that's a good number to be able to get everything done throughout the week and get it done well. So in my classes, the work on the project has taken 5 days, and when I say 5 days, I mean they've worked bell to bell for 5 straight days. And that's something I found with this project, that students really get invested, they enjoy it, and they work really hard with it. Then after those 5 days, I usually have a day or two where we present our projects if we have time. If we have time, that's something I sometimes cut out, but that's a part of the project that students really, really enjoy doing. So as you can see here on this opening page, I've got 4 due dates, and those are things that kind of give students a timeline for where they should be with the project as we go throughout the week. So ideally what the students are doing, or basically what they're doing, is they're creating a 10-man or a 10-person with 2 arms, 2 legs, a torso, a head, some type of hat. It doesn't necessarily have to be a conical hat. And then they're going to wrap that 10-person in foil. So they have to calculate the correct amount of foil they're going to need before they actually wrap their 10-man. So day 1, what students are going to have to do is they're going to draw or describe what they're going to create. So this is a rough sketch of an example that students might come up with. So on this page of their packet, they're going to draw what they think they're going to make, and then they are going to label each piece of their 10-person. So as you can see in my example here, I've got a cone for the hat, a hexagonal prism for the head, a rectangular prism for the body, 2 cylinders for the legs, and 2 triangular prisms for the arms. And you can see that actual 10-person off to the side in that picture. It's actually created. So what they're also doing on this page is they're labeling what solids they need to build themselves based on the nets that I can supply for them, or they're labeling what objects they have brought in. So leading up to this week, I have students bring in toilet paper rolls, paper towel rolls, Pringle cans, boxes of any shape and size to prepare for this, so we can have a variety of things to use for our project. So that's what they need to get done on the first day, is their description, their rough sketch, what each person is building or what each person is bringing in, and that usually doesn't take them the whole day. So they'll usually get this done, and they'll even start on the next part. So the next part is really the meat of this project. It's all of the calculations. So what students do on these calculation pages is they have to measure each shape themselves. So I highly, highly stress to my students that they want to do all of these calculations before they ever attach any of their solids. That way they can get accurate measures, because on these they're measuring everything themselves. and then they're calculating everything themselves. So, for example, in this first row, I am calculating the hat of our 10 person. So I've drawn the net of that cone, and then I've blocked off what I see from our sketch before, or I see from our setup of our shapes, what's going to overlap. Because if we think about it, when we're creating the surface area, I'm going to cover this Tin Man in foil, not all of the shape is going to be covered. That bottom piece where the hat connects to the head is not going to have foil on it. So that's going to be the very difficult part for the students, is to subtract off what is going to be overlapping. And that's going to be a pretty tedious part. So usually this page or multiple pages take students about 2 days to complete. And you notice in the bottom corner, not only do students calculate each shape, but they also have to have that calculation checked by a peer, which is really important. It has students look at their peers' work and make sure that they're using the right formulas, they're using the correct numbers, they double check the measurements, just to make it easier later on, because if measurements are wrong, it's really going to mess up their calculations on the amount of foil they need. This next page is where students will take their calculations, their totals from those calculation pages, and just kind of list them in the correct area, write down who calculated it, and then add them all up and find their total surface area. After they find this total surface area in centimeters, which we use centimeters just to give us a little more accuracy on our measurements, they're going to take those centimeters squared and convert it to inches, and then convert that to feet, because that's what I'm going to give them the foil in. I'm going to roll it out by the foot 4 inches towards the end and give that to them. So at the bottom of this, they have to write a statement of what they agree, their whole group agrees is the amount of foil they need to accurately cover their 10 person. To end, I always have students answer these reflection questions, and these reflection questions are what they're going to present about. So one of my students' favorite parts is they have to first name their 10 person, and then they get to describe their 10 person's background or life story in a few sentences. So as you can see, this group to the right, they did a very, very good job. And their description of their 10 person was, they first off named him David, and they said, David is a young man who dreams of one day attending the University of iRobot. He is going to become a neurosurgeon, and then he will become the best neurosurgeon ever. So they really got a kick out of presenting this to their classmates. And that other picture is they gave David a number and told me that David is now part of my softball team. So I needed to take him to the dugout and put him in the game. So that's where those come from. But all of these other questions really get students thinking about the project as a whole. Did they make calculations correctly? Did they run out of foil? What was the hardest part? What was super confusing? What could I do to help? And then that number 5 you see is why they had to calculate that volume as well on the calculation page, because they have to go back and say, if sand is 10 cents per cubic centimeter, how much would it cost for me to fill up my robot with sand? So that's another application for students to use their logic, reasoning skills, and then apply that to something that they might have to do in real life. Here is the grading scales, or the grading sheet that I used. I tell students that for the most part their grade is the same as their group, but their participation, which they get each day, 10 points per day, is going to be individual. So this is just where I mark them off. And then these are the other areas that I have to grade points by, and this would be a 200-point test grade for my students. And I have been so fortunate in the past that they have taken this so seriously. They really enjoy doing it. They show just how much they learn in the unit, and really apply all that knowledge. So this is something I've really, really enjoyed doing with my students.